On August 26, we will be celebrating the 75th anniversary of women receiving the right to vote. When we vote, do we consider HIV and AIDS? Should we? Find out next on AIDS Vision. Welcome to AIDS Vision. I'm your volunteer host, Allison Arngrim. Today in AIDS Vision, we're going to be talking specifically about women's involvement in fighting HIV and AIDS. Also specifically our political involvement, because on the 26th, we are celebrating the 75th anniversary of women's suffrage, which is how long we've been voting. With me today to talk about this is Elissa Glickman, who is the HIV Resource Center Coordinator at AIDS Project Los Angeles, and Barbara Bassett, who is a media volunteer with APLA. Welcome to AIDS Vision.
Thank you.
Hi. Elissa, what is it you do as HIV Resource Center Coordinator? What does that mean?
Well, the HIV Resource Center is a place where staff and clients and the rest of the LA community can come in, get information on HIV infection, specifically fact sheets on opportunistic infections, drug therapies, brochures on prevention, risk reduction, and whatnot. We also have medical journals and a video library.
So it's sort of the little library information center. So if you're saying I don't get enough information on AIDS at my school, my life,
exactly.
You have a place to go. It's free, you come in, you get whatever you want.
Exactly. People can come in, take whatever they want, read any of the books, watch any of the videos in-house. And I get a lot of people who come in doing research papers and whatnot.
So there's not really an excuse anymore for not being educated, because it's down the street.
Exactly.
So you know where it is. Now, what do you do in media as a media volunteer?
I'm a media volunteer. I go out with other volunteers and we coordinate different aspects of the media to get into the benefits that we have. When they get in, we provide them with photo opportunities and things like that to get the word out that these things are happening.
So you help facilitate all that press coverage that we see of these events, so people know that they're going on.
Yes, I'm one of those phantoms out there.
Now, one of the things that is actually going on that we'll be covering is on August 26th, the 75th anniversary of women's suffrage. I know we've had previous shows where we talked about APLA's various programs in public policy where they're really working to register everyone to vote and reminding them of the importance of HIV and AIDS related issues. Is this something we're also going to be doing at this rally on the 26th?
Yes, our public policy department will have people there registering attendees to vote in the upcoming election. AIDS Project Los Angeles is also inviting all of our clients and all of the members of the community to come out and support this women's suffrage movement. It's going to be a wonderful event. We're really looking forward to it. The entire APLA activity was planned by the Women's Advocacy Committee at AIDS Project Los Angeles.
And what does the Women's Advocacy Committee do? I don't know if everyone knows about that.
Basically, we used to be the Women's and HIV Task Force, and we've just recently changed our name to the Advocacy Committee. What we're working on is this Suffrage Day March. The other things that we're working on is this mandatory testing bill and trying to make sure that that doesn't go through and that sort of thing. So basically we're an advocate for our clients, not only for healthcare services within APLA, but for healthcare services outside of AIDS Project Los Angeles.
Now when we hear mandatory testing, I think some of us may remember back in the old days, the big fear of mandatory testing was, well, they were going to test all the gay men, because back then they thought, oh yeah, that's the only people we need to test.
Yes.
Now we see mandatory testing. This is to do with mandatory testing of women, is it not?
Yeah.
Yes. What is this bill?
They're doing it under the guise of, we want to protect the children.
They pull that one thing basically, don't they?
It's the
nice
year to
idea,
protect
but
the child, and that's wonderful, and we all want to protect, you know, this country's youth, but we don't want to protect anyone at the expense of anyone else's rights. And the ideology behind it is, if we test women that have just recently found out that they're pregnant, then we can get women to take care of themselves with either drug treatments or going to a physician on a regular basis. But what they're overlooking is that if we offer prenatal counseling and voluntary HIV testing to women, then women will opt to do that. But if women are forced to go in there, then chances are they won't go in to get any prenatal counseling.
There's forced anything, you have people tending to stay out of the doctor's office. It's very dangerous. Now, it's getting where most of the gynecologists, obstetricians that I know, well, in LA and in big cities, are starting to tell the women they see, if you're planning to have a baby or if you're coming to my office pregnant, I'm going to ask you, have you been tested and are you getting a test? Because you need to know that.
Right.
And most women I know say they want to know if they're HIV positive, if they're planning on having a child. But you're saying with the mandatory testing, this would cause more fear than education?
It's going to, I believe it's going to cause more fear than education. And another thing that I think it's going to do is it's going to force state or federally funded programs, healthcare clinics and whatnot, to, in order to give services, healthcare services to women, they're going to have to follow these certain guidelines. And so they're going to be so tied up following all of these federal and state guidelines that they're not going to be able to give the women the actual one-on-one personal attention that they deserve.
And they're going to need that, because aren't then the options that a woman has who's pregnant with HIV, not every baby born to an infected woman is infected.
Right.
It's sort of a horrifying roll of the dice.
Exactly.
So do you take the drugs that may or may not prevent the transmission to the child? They've been shown to in some cases.
But then they don't know.
Do you take the chance if the child...
And then you know, the flat line of everything is you don't know what the side effects are going to be to the child and to the mother after the child is born, and the child continues to take the drug. They don't know what the long-term effects on that child are going to be.
And then for the women who are struggling, do I have the child, do I abort?
Exactly.
This is all of a sudden another issue on the table in that.
Exactly.
So it's a little messy to be just mandating that you do this whether you want to or not.
And you know, I think it's a little unfair for all of these men sitting on Capitol Hill to be signing these bills.
Again.
Who are so poorly educated with AIDS anyway.
Exactly.
I mean, these men know nothing. You know, we've still got people on the Hill that are saying, you know, that only gay men have AIDS, and you know that you know it's not a disease of everybody. It's just a gay disease. And so these people are going to mandate that we have to have HIV testing for everyone.
Exactly.
But they still believe it's a gay disease.
And that's the only reason they're doing that.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's the leading cause of death for people between 20 and 40 pretty much. It's been the leading cause of death for women of childbearing age for several years now. And I don't think a lot of women really realize that. And women, are they being educated now to look at politicians' policy on HIV and AIDS when they vote?
Well, I think that yes and no. I think that women, the education, the information, and everything is out there for women to get, but the problem is that the priorities for women are a lot different. Women have jobs, well, men have jobs as well, but women have jobs and families to take care of. A lot of women are raising their families on their own. If they are infected and their partner is infected, they're taking care of their partner and their child and then themselves. So these issues come into play when we're dealing with issues of politics and knowing what information and finding out about risk reduction and finding out how to, you know, keep yourself safe and whatnot.
And I think a lot of women still, when they think about their relationship to AIDS, it's as caregiver. It's I vote to help people with HIV because of my friend or my relative or my child who I'm taking care of.
I don't think they realize that they can get it themselves. You know, I think it's like you said, it's all in the caregiver. Women don't realize that there are women out there that have AIDS. I think the education process that, you know, we keep trying to do is get out and tell people how you can get AIDS, how you can get tested, how you can get information about it. But it's not enough. We need to get it into the schools. We need to get it onto national television, because all you ever hear about on national television is, you know, that we're trying to get everybody tested, mandatory. We're trying to do this, but we're not giving education on how do you get it. You know, it's just weird to me that people, as a volunteer, the people that I know still come up to me and say, you know, well, you don't eat off the plates, do you?
It's still like that.
It's,
now,
yeah, and
also you deal with the press. What is? I know that when I started doing this stuff in '86, I sort of went head on with the press when they seemed to be at their absolute lowest level of knowing anything.
Yeah,
it was
and weren't you
mind-boggling
afraid,
to me.
you know?
Is it getting any better? Are you finding, because you deal with high numbers of people working for the press, both radio, TV, newspapers,
It's a job to them.
Are they asking any questions that sound like they've read anything?
No, no, it's a job to them. They come, they film, they leave. Yeah, they don't ask any questions. They're there to film the celebrities that are there, and we enjoy that because that gets the word out at least. It gets some kind of AIDS information out. Maybe not the AIDS information we want to get out, but no, I personally don't see, especially with people that I know, that there's any more information that there ever was. Most of the people I know still think you can get it from sitting on a toilet seat or from drinking out of the same glass or touching somebody. And I don't know, that's one of the things that really bothers me about it.
Have we tried doing any little education seminars targeted to specifically press and press employees?
That I'm not aware of.
I mean, maybe the way to go, because yeah, I mean, some of them, they just come in, they film it, and it's good in a way, because people at home, it sort of jogs their memory. They see this on TV, but I'm wondering if there isn't something we can do for these people, because they are asking very strange questions, when they're asking even.
Well, I mean, I'm sure that you get the same thing, though. You know, when people talk to you, they probably come up with really odd questions out of nowhere, and you think, haven't we gotten farther than this? It just strikes me that with all of the information that I know now, I'm amazed at how little most people know.
And one of the biggest ones I get, I mean, besides like asking me if I was tested after having worked on TV with someone who had it, which is particularly classic, is why am I involved? Why am I doing these things? Well, after all, you're a straight white woman, blah, 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 middle class, what have you, that I am not a gay man, that I am not, I don't know, from Haiti, whatever they think I'm supposed to be to want to be involved. It seems like that it's odd that I'm involved, that there's something unusual about it.
Well, usually when I'm hit with that question, I tell them that I joined to meet guys. But sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. But no,
of course, it worked on me, though.
You were the lucky ones, you know. Can you introduce me to somebody? No, I joined basically because I had a high school friend that died from AIDS, and he died alone because he didn't want any of us to know about it, and we didn't know until afterwards that he had died of it. So when I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't know anybody, and so I just decided, well, I'm going to volunteer, and so I just started looking around at places to volunteer, and I just kind of fell into this, and I've met the greatest people through this. I mean, if you're a single person out there and you have nothing to do, this is great. The people are great. There's billions of things you can do. We need volunteers like crazy, and if you want to make a change in the world, even if it's just changing yourself, it's a great organization to join. They do so much work, and they try to educate people. And as a result of it, I used to just kind of shine on people that would, you're working for who, or whatever. And now it's like I come right back at them and say, do you know this? Do you know that? And it kind of, sets them off. But then they start thinking about it afterwards. And they ask me about it, and they ask me for information, and they ask me, what is it that you really do and all that, and it gets the word out.
I'm seeing also a pattern here that when women volunteer, they are less put off by the homophobic stigma that some straight men might be involved in. When we look, you were saying, I was looking for a place to volunteer to help people. March Dives, blah, 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 blah. Oh, it's Project Los Angeles. It wasn't like, well, I'll put that on list B because it has to do with AIDS. That I don't see as many women do that. That may be some handy little advantage we have.
Well, it goes back to what you said initially. Homophobia still runs rampant in the HIV community and in society in general. So that has a lot to do with why there are such an equal number of women and gay men volunteering in AIDS service organizations.
Because the same people who don't like them don't like us either.
Exactly.
Unfortunately,
Well,
it is true.
but it is true that homophobia is rampant. I take pictures at the benefits and stuff that we work and all this, and I'll show them to my friends, and they're like, so he's gay?
Oh, how many people here have had the one where if you volunteer for AIDS, it is assumed that you are a lesbian?
Oh, yeah, I've had that.
I found that one very interesting. It's not that there aren't many lesbians volunteering, but I've never known it to be a requirement. So there is.
Well, I'm
that
kind of flattered because
image.
I haven't had like a date in 2 years, so you know, we'll go from either side at this
Take
point.
it where
you know?
you can get it. And that's the thing is women, I don't know. I see that more straight men have those kind of fears, whereas women, I don't know, we're used to being discriminated against, we're used to being insulted. These things don't bother us as much.
Exactly, exactly.
Now, what is it that is happening, this rally on August 26th? Where is this happening? What's going on? How can people get involved?
It's happening in downtown Los Angeles,
Okay.
and I believe it's at the City Hall building on Spring Street. And basically what's happening is at 9:30 in the morning, a group of women are getting together with some celebrity speakers and
To get that press and media
To
there.
get that
Yes,
press
we
and
know.
media
Bring
there.
on those celebrity speakers. All
with
right.
some celebrity speakers. AIDS Project Los Angeles, again, is inviting our clients, and we're providing T-shirts to any person who's interested in getting involved that has the APLA logo, and it says Women's Voices with Choices. And we're going to have tables with information and voter registration. And basically, it's just an opportunity for women to get together to celebrate the opportunities that we fought so hard to have.
And there's still an incredible number of women who are not registered to vote.
Exactly. Exactly.
Or who are and don't vote.
And don't vote. Now, isn't it true that women at this point outnumber men, women of voting age outnumber men of voting age? So if we all actually registered and voted as a bloc.
And it's not just, I mean, it goes beyond registering, and it goes beyond voting as a bloc. It goes to knowing the issues, being up to date on things, asking people questions. And that's a lot to ask of a person who, again, has so many other things to consider, especially a woman who is HIV infected, who has so many other things going on in their lives where public policy issues may not be their general focus. And that can be very frustrating for a woman living with HIV disease, thinking, you know, I have my kid, I have to make sure I can pay the rent and get food on the table, and now I have to learn about public policy and deal with mandatory testing laws and vote correctly and make sure that I can get access to clinical trials. There's just so many different issues that are going on.
Also, finding out this information, I mean, something I've noticed is very often, because of the way media covers elections, you don't really find out whether your candidate is for or against certain bills, how they vote on things, or how
Until
they
after
feel.
they're in office.
I know who they're married to, I know if they cheated on them, I know where they get their hair done, and I know what their basic soundbite answers are to maybe 5 questions.
Exactly.
And the research that one has to do to find out anything more than that is extensive. APLA, through public policy, do they offer a place where you can research this, where you can get this information?
Well, we have a grassroots network that sends out notices, I think, on a daily basis, talking about different issues. And they have a hotline that you can call to get information. There's about 4, 5, 6 people who work in that department that you can get personal contact and say, you know, I want to know more about this mandatory testing issue. Could you explain it to me? Or could you send me something in the mail or fax me something? Or can I come down to APLA and spend about 10 minutes with you? And again, it's a really wonderful opportunity for women to get involved.
So you can get that information that you need to make those kind of decisions.
Exactly.
Sure, and you can volunteer too and hear what everybody else is talking about while you're volunteering. At least you get some information from that.
This is also, once again, another plea for volunteers, the numerous things we have done. What departments are we working again?
Well, just call Volunteer Resources. They'll find a happy place for anyone. And you know, and I can see, again, going back to the issue of infected women, it's really frustrating for them as well, because they feel like, oh, I really want to volunteer, but I just don't have the time. And it's really difficult for me as a person who is uninfected to say, you know, go out there and volunteer and dedicate your time. Yeah, exactly. Because again, there are other issues. There's healthcare issues and whatnot. There are things you can do at home. You can call your representatives at home and say, you know what, I heard that you were voting against this bill or for this bill, and I'm really upset, and I vote. And so there are things that you can do that take 5 minutes, and you don't even have to leave your home.
And then also the uninfected women we talk about. I think women, if they're HIV positive, at least at that point understand that this issue affects them, and they may or may not have time to become involved. But we have women who are uninfected, who may have the time, may have the money, the resources to do things, but they simply don't see this as their issue. How do we break through that? I know it took years to educate a lot of gay men that this was something they had to consider. How do we break it to women that they need to start thinking of it in the same terms that gay men have for years?
Well, I think women have a difficult time processing healthcare issues on a whole because of the way healthcare is dealt with in the women's community. So I think that the key in all of this is to change women's perspective of what healthcare means to us, and by doing that, like going to the doctor on a regular basis is important for any woman, infected or uninfected.
And well, then of course we come to the issue that women's healthcare stinks.
Right,
in
exactly.
a lot of places we have a terrible problem with that. Women do not receive the same healthcare men do. Women often do not have the same access to healthcare as men do. There's serious problems in how women are treated by the medical system, and HIV and AIDS is icing on the cake of another issue that women have to fight about in the medical system.
And now with the possible closing of County USC and 5P21, it's going to get worse, which is unfortunate in LA County.
And 5P21 is where most mothers with children with AIDS, mothers and children, this is where they're going.
Yep. It's very, very scary. The one thing that we found that does work in the women's community is street outreach. We found that asking women to come in to organizations to get information and education is not as easy as it is for us to go to them. Go to places where women congregate, where women work, where women live, and say, here's some information, read it. Here's some information, listen to it. And that seems to really affect women and get women more involved. So if we were going to do anything to like lasso women into the volunteer community, it's like going out there where they are, where they live, and saying, this is an issue that pertains to you. Come and be a part of all of this.
What one thing do you want to tell people besides be there August 26th?
I just think that we need to get more education out, and we need to have people show up at this particular thing, because it is important for women to vote. It is important. We're one of the largest masses there is, and issues that are important to us are not getting made into laws. We're not getting health care. We're not getting anything. We need to get more women out there to vote for the things that affect us.
I think that the women's suffrage movement is a really strong metaphor for what we're going through today as women. And if women could continue to have those big mouths and persistent attitudes that we had 75 years ago, we can continue to enjoy the benefits that we have for the last 75 years. And I think that that's a real key issue.
Yeah, it's interesting that we still refer to it as the movement, as if we're still trying to get through. In a weird way, it's still happening. HIV and AIDS are women's issues. They affect us directly. You will not get anything or get decent treatment until you ask for it. Please join us on August 26th downtown at City Hall. Please contact AIDS Project Los Angeles for details and information that you may need to save your life and the lives of others. Thank you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
There's always lots to learn, and just as many reasons as to why. You and me got choices, so listen to the voices inside us that say don't quit, don't cry. So while leaning on each other, brothers known as brothers, and strangers we've decided there are none. To life's unanswered questions, appeals and rejections, indeed this is a Though you may think you've blown it, you can make a friend out of a foe. For in this human race, nothing takes the place of knowing you're not in it all alone. So while leaning on each other, brothers known as brothers, and strangers we decide there are none. To life's unanswered questions.
There were 7,000 women in the U.S. with AIDS.
He looks healthy.
He loves me. I'm too embarrassed to buy condoms.
Women like me don't get AIDS. By 1996, over 75,000 women will have AIDS. It's time to stop fooling ourselves. The truth is, women like us can and do get AIDS. Call for free confidential help and information.